What's up? So today I'm going to talk about a question from Quora that actually takes my interest. That is, what if Darkseid was in the SCP universe? I've seen a lot of answers that the SCP Foundation would classify him as Stamiel since he is uncontainable, or Keter for that matter. I don't know. I don't remember some of these answers that much, but still they are very interesting since he would pose a threat to the SCP Foundation as a whole. But here's the thing: he would not only be able to actually pose a threat to the SCP Foundation itself, but also all the lower Elder Gods. Because why? Well, Darkseid is an outer-versal god, a platonic concept that exists in the archetypal world, and he is also a part of the new gods, which emerges after the old gods died. So they're basically called the new gods now, and they also exist infinitely above the bleed, which is basically a high hyperversal structure which contains infinite dimensions. So they're basically outerversal, and platonic concepts are outerversal in their own right. So not only would Darkseid be opposed to the be some sort of foe or of sorts, or an anomaly that would pose a threat to the SCP Foundation, but also the lower Elder Gods as a whole. Since remember in that one Final Crisis storyline where he basically falls onto the multiverse, his true form by the way. I don't remember that much, but still, it's kind of like in that one Final Crisis comic where he basically fell onto the multiverse, which is, the multiverse consists of the bleed also, which is a high hyperversal structure which contains infinite dimensions, and he falls on it and creates some sort of singularity, like a hole in existence of sorts. I got that from the imaginary axis, by the way. And also, existence itself crumbles as Darkseid falls onto the multiverse, or the hyperverse for that matter, since the bleed does contain infinite dimensions, which makes the bleed high hyperversal. So if Darkseid was in the SCP universe and came to the decision to just destroy it just by falling on it or do something else, then not only would he be destroying the entire hyperverse of the SCP universe, but would also destroy all of the lower Elder Gods as a whole. If he were to be put in the SCP universe, he would be at the rank of the High Elder Gods for that matter, since the High Elder Gods can destroy the lower Elder Gods just by being in their presence. So putting Darkseid there, including the gods that exist within the God Sphere, would be overkill for that matter. However, luckily, Darkseid is more of a conqueror rather than a being that only seeks to destroy things in front of it, basically, like Doomsday of sorts. So I think the scenario, this is just my opinion, you can just look the question on Quora and you'll find plenty of answers. But is that I've seen in a lot of answers and replies that SCP-682 true form can just take down the Scarlet King. The SCP-682's true form can take down Darkseid, and the Scarlet King can take down Darkseid. Well, no, unfortunately, since Darkseid is outerversal and is a platonic concept, and basically, like, if he came to the decision, like I said before, to just destroy the hyperverse, then he'll do it, and the lower Elder Gods would be toast, including the Tree of Knowledge. So basically, the brother's death defending the Tree of Knowledge from the Scarlet King is hard enough, but defending it against Darkseid in his true form would be really hard, since remember, he would be at the High Elder Gods level of category, since the High Elder Gods can destroy only the lower Elder Gods just by being in his presence. So if he were to unleash his true form in the hyperverse of the SCP universe, then he would have destroyed not only the entire hyperverse as a whole, but also the lower Elder Gods just by, getting near it. But if New Genesis exists there too, there was a good chance that New Genesis would defend the hyperverse, since it is an important part of creation within the DC universe. And if they were to be placed in the SCP universe as well, similar to Apocalypse and Darkseid, then this would mean that there would be the SCP Foundation and New Genesis would be constantly on war with with Darkseid himself and Apocalypse. And the lower Elder Gods would just be caught in the middle of this war if they were to unleash their true forms and fight to the death out there within the God Sphere, basically. And the hyperverse would be, toast in the SCP universe. Like, in my what-if scenario, like, if the SCP universe existed in the same universe as the DC one, then the low elder gods would fear like the new gods, and not only the high elder gods but also the new gods. Since I've heard that in one of these YouTube videos about the high elder gods, the only low elder god that can withstand being in their presence and comprehend them is All Death, since he is one of the Brothers Death and is the eldest of the Brothers Death, basically. So basically, despite the low elder gods being powerful in their own right, being high hyperversal, they would stand no chance against Darkseid and the new gods as a whole, since any outerversal character would, beat the Scarlet King, for that matter. However, I've seen people trying to bring in SCP-3812 to the battle. Maybe this could work. And I decided to know that if SCP-3812 isn't omnipotent, then who is equal to him? So I decided to look on Quora to search about who is equal to SCP-62 or something like that, and I stumbled upon a question called Cosmic Armor Superman versus SCP-3812, who would win? So the answers in there is kinda static to me. I mean like it's a bit confusing. Like Cosmic Armor Superman is basically the story of Superman itself, and also he pre-adapts every future threat that will come. And SCP-3812 also adapts, into endless stacks of endless narratives. So basically, these guys would just basically, adapt to each other's abilities for all of eternity, ending in a stalemate. So basically, they both have plot manipulation on a massive scale. That's one. So, if SCP-3812 is on par with Cosmic Armor Superman, that is, this would mean that any being that is higher than Cosmic Armor Superman can beat SCP-3812. And the reason why is that Mandrake is a form of hyperstory. I think that, and this is just my opinion, just, don't judge me. I don't know what a hyperstory is, but I'm just going to give my thought as possible. A hyperstory, it may be some sort of, endless stacks of endless narrative type of story of sorts, basically. So this would mean that, SCP-3812 would still be at the level of Cosmic Armor Superman, which is impressive, but it would still be nowhere near the top tiers, the beings that are above Cosmic Armor Superman in power, including from other franchises. So basically, the only way to defeat Darkseid, for that matter, is to call in SCP-3812. But if there is a threat like Mandrake around, SCP-3812 would fight him for eternity, basically. I think like Cosmic Armor Superman. Although I think he's a bit weaker of sorts, I don't know. He's still, he is still very powerful in his own right. Besides, he basically, in one comic book, he basically said that he basically severely damaged the presence, which is a very impressive feat in its own right. So any being that is above SCP-3812, above Cosmic Armor Superman in power, which is equal to SCP-3812, and then SCP-3812 will get obliterated. Like, if there's any Eldritch Horror gods that are above Cosmic Armor Superman in power, would just exist in the SCP universe, then SCP-3812 would stand no chance against, Yog-Sothoth or Azathoth, for that matter. And also, he wouldn't stand a chance against the Nameless Mist, which predates Yog-Sothoth himself, basically. And the Nameless Mist is not only predates Azathoth, the Nameless Mist does not only predates Yog-Sothoth, sorry about that, grammar problems, but also predates all of creation as a whole. The only being on top of the Nameless Mist is Azathoth himself. Basically, Azathoth, all of creation exists in Azathoth's dream, and when he wakes up, he basically wiped out all of existence, including SCP-3812. So any beings on Yog-Sothoth or the Nameless Mist level, or maybe at the level of Shub-Niggurath, would easily beat SCP-3812 with absolutely no difficulty. And surprisingly, there are actually two beings that, I discovered from one of my commenters that is above SCP-3812 in power. That is Sephiroth and Qliphoth. I didn't get much information about Sephiroth and Qliphoth, but in Quora, I've known that Sephiroth and Qliphoth exist outside of the primary infinite and beyond infinite narratives. So I think they'd be logically at the level of, Yog-Sothoth, Shub-Niggurath, Yog-Sothoth, or the Nameless Mist. And the only beings that they cannot beat is is omnipotent beings. Since I've seen the answer in one of these questions about if SCP-312 is the most powerful fictional being in existence, that Sephiroth and Klopoth is the most powerful non-omnipotent beings. So in order to determine the most powerful fictional universe, you don't need to focus only on omnipotent beings. You need to also focus on the most powerful non-omnipotent beings. Since if there's the most powerful non-omnipotent being that outshines other non-omnipotent beings second to only their omnipotent being, which would logically be above that same non-omnipotent being that is above all omnipotent beings and all non-omnipotent beings in fiction, then this would mean that that verse is the most powerful, since you logically need the most powerful non-omnipotent being to do so, not just omnipotent being, since it would end the stalemate, basically. So anyways guys, that's it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications, and peace out.